Hey everybody, John Raridan here, and we have just gotten our first look at Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door in its newly remastered form on Nintendo Switch. There have actually been quite a few visual changes made to this one to bring it up to the high visual standards set by HD Paper Mario games. Whether you like the gameplay of the modern Paper Mario games or not, both Color Splash and Origami King have been some of the best looking games on the Wii U and Switch respectively. In bringing Thousand Year Door up to this level, there have been some pretty significant changes to its art style, but it's hard to argue with the result. So today, let's take a very quick look at the technical makeup of this updated GameCube classic and see what we can learn. Now, most of this is pretty good news, but there is one small sticking point that I think we should get out of the way first. Based on what we've seen, the Switch version of Thousand Year Door is targeting 30 frames per second. This is a downgrade compared to the 60 frames per second of the original GameCube version. I'll also note that this doesn't appear to be an issue with the trailer simply being rendered at 30 FPS, as we do in fact see a brief moment of 60 FPS in the trailer for one shot. But that particular shot appears to have been doubled in speed, thus resulting in the perceived higher frame rate. The rest of the trailer never exceeds 30. Now, of course, this is a turn-based RPG, so the effect of this change will be minimal. However, as Thousand Year Door makes use of timed button presses during combat, the lowered frame rate may increase latency issues with those prompts. It shouldn't pose a huge issue, but it's really the one concern we have based on the trailer, so it's worth being aware of. As for the rest of this trailer, the news is much more positive. I was able to pull resolution counts from a few different shots, which came out to 900p. This is on par with Retro's Metroid Prime remaster from earlier this year. Given the 900p docked resolution, I'd expect handheld to run at or very near 720p. The rest of the technical feature set also looks solid. We can see some oftentimes subtle reflections in various surfaces, giving the game a very clean, glossy look. I would assume these are screen space reflections, but it's hard to tell exactly what technique is being used just based on the trailer. Ambient occlusion does a nice job of filling out corners with patches of shade, which works really nicely with this art style. There also appears to be some sort of global illumination technique in place to simulate the bouncing of colored light between surfaces. You can see it in the lightly illuminated inside of the chair legs in Mario and Luigi's house in this opening shot. The one thing I'd say is missing is a pass of anti-aliasing to clean up some of the harsh edges. It seems to be par for the course in a lot of first-party Nintendo games, but it would do a lot to clean up the image. Of course, one of the biggest changes to this version is the updated art style. The HD Paper Mario games have placed a much stronger focus on making sure that the entire world looks as if it is indeed made of paper and cardboard. Thousand Year Door has been adapted to fit this modern look. It is perhaps most obvious in this shot of Rogueport. Notice how the original game had a pretty traditional stylized water shader, using a similar technique to games like The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. This new version replaces that with something a bit more abstract. Similarly, the completely flat characters of the original have been given some actual 3D depth, as if they're made of thin cardboard. This results in some very nice edge lighting that actually reminds me of the original N64 Paper Mario, which used some sort of masking trick to imply edge lighting on its 2D sprites. The end result is a game that looks great, but quite different from the original in presentation. While I personally prefer the look of the modern Paper Mario games, I'm curious to know what you think. So leave your thoughts in the comments below, and stick with Nintendo World Report for continuing coverage of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and everything else Nintendo. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to Nintendo World Report and checking out NintendoWorldReport.com for a whole lot more. You can chat with us about Paper Mario or anything else using our Discord. There's a link in the description. Once again, my name's John Raridan, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.